The world is full of urban legends, remarkable stories that spread like viruses around the planet, mutating and evolving until no one can remember which are true and which are urban legends. In this episode called Big Mistakes, you'll see 3 incredible stories about the people who fall foul of some very bad decisions. First up, the brothers Diaz go fishing, but can't catch a break. Then Rick Skeddington and his fraternity friends decide to antagonize the wrong hotel guests. And finally, Major Nigel Taylor uncovers a mystery in the mountains of Bosnia that leaves him shaken. Watch all 3 stories and decide which ones are true and which ones are false. Find out if you guessed right at the end of the show. First, it's a story we like to call Castaway. Just outside of Boston, the sleepy coastal town of Dorchester, Massachusetts, has been home port to generations of proud fishermen, including these guys. Meet Manuel and Herman Diaz. When he's not carving wooden chickens, Manuel loves to go fishing with his brothers. And one trip proved especially memorable. Early on April 14, 1999, Manuel, Herman, and their brother Ephraim set out for a relaxing day of fishing in Boston Harbor.
And it was a beautiful day, a marvelous day to fish.
However, we did not prepare as well as we should have. We didn't have any means of communication, and the boat wasn't in great shape.
But this didn't stop the Diaz brothers from enjoying themselves.
The trip went well, and we had a good time. Around 4 in the afternoon, we decided to return. But the motor would not start. We didn't know what the problem was.
What happened? Where's the problem? What the hell is this?
The propeller is hopelessly tangled in a fishing net.
I can't believe this. It's a net. It's huge. I need something to cut it off. Give me a knife or something. Otherwise, a knife. Okay. Gotta get something. I need to cut it. There's nothing here. There's gotta be a knife.
Their lack of preparation means they have no way of freeing the propeller.
Meanwhile, we were being pushed further and further from the shore. It was getting darker and darker. We put up the flag we had to attract attention, but nobody noticed.
And then the weather turned nasty, so I told my brothers to start paddling.
We're gonna make it.
The sea was getting rough. The waves were about 5 feet high.
Oh, how far?
Their tiny boat is being swept out towards the Atlantic Ocean.
I thought, this is it.
The brothers are completely lost, and their boat is taking on water. They're in danger of going under.
But we are God's servants, and I was sure that He would help us.
Then out of nowhere, they spy a small island. In a sheltered cove, they pull their leaky boat ashore. Exhausted, after hours of struggle, brothers finally untangle the propeller. But to their dismay, they find that one of the propeller blades has been sheared off.
We have to spend at least a night here.
There's no choice but to postpone the plans of getting help until morning.
Are you okay? Yeah, just go.
No, sir. He's supposed to be back around 5 hours ago.
Unfortunately, there's a storm coming.
Back at home, Manuel's worried daughter calls the Coast Guard.
I was worried for our families.
Maybe they would think that we had drowned. Who knows what they might have been thinking.
The Coast Guard can do nothing while the storm is still raging. So the Diaz brothers are left tired, wet, and hungry on an unknown island.
The cold was unbearable. We wrapped ourselves in a large sheet of plastic, and this way, the three of us were able to keep warm.
By dawn, the storm has passed and the Coast Guard begins its search. But without a last known position to go from, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. After an uncomfortable night on the island, the Diaz brothers awake. They can hardly believe their eyes as the morning brings an incredible sight. Instead of being carried miles out to sea, the Diaz brothers had actually been blown further into Boston Harbor. Civilization had only been a few hundred yards away. Within moments, they are spotted by the Coast Guard helicopter and airlifted to safety. So does the story hold water? Or is it just a washed-up whopper? Find out at the end of the show. But first, check out this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 216. Better off behind bars. Algerian Ahmed Salih is convicted of breaching immigration laws in Ferrara, Italy. As punishment, the judge sentences him to 9 months house arrest with his Italian wife. After only a week, Ahmed has had enough. His wife's constant nagging is driving him crazy. So he goes back to the court and begs to be jailed for the rest of his sentence, saying he needs some peace. The judge sympathizes and lets him serve the remaining months behind bars. So is this story the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Or is it all just a con? Is it true or false? It's true. The judge ruled Ahmed could serve the remaining 35 weeks of his sentence in the jailhouse. On Urban Legends, we show you 3 amazing stories. You must decide which are totally true and which are fantastically false. So far, you've seen the tale of the Diaz brothers, who thought they'd been swept out into the Atlantic Ocean in a storm, only to find themselves shipwrecked inside Boston Harbor. But is it true or false? Find out at the end of the show. Now it's time for our next story. It's called Shutterbugs. Minot, North Dakota is known locally as the Magic City because it sprang up out of nowhere almost overnight. It's also home to this guy. Meet City Councilor Rick Skeddington.
I work full-time with City Hall, and I love to help people.
But Rick wasn't always a stand-up member of society.
I've come a long way from my party days. That was a long time ago.
February 20th, 1994. Rick and his college buddies are driving to Chicago to party away the President's Day long weekend. But a snowstorm forces them to abandon their plans.
But we didn't make it to Chicago. We got snowed in. So we ended up checking into this hotel.
The weather has trapped dozens of other President's Day partygoers in the same hotel.
When we started partying right away.
We got a hot dog! Yes! Yes! Yes!
I mean, partying hardcore.
Woo!
Now, at some point, we ran out of booze, so we had sent Skip to go and get some more beer. When Skip got back, he had these disposable cameras with him, which was really ridiculous because we didn't want disposable cameras, we wanted more beer.
Were you gonna take a picture?
Yeah, for the pool.
But, you know, he was going on and on about wanting to get some spring break girly photos.
Why not?
So Rick and the guys take the party and the cameras to the hotel pool.
And that's when Tad decided that the disposable cameras were a good idea. At first, we weren't annoying anybody, but I think, you know, people started to get pretty pissed off. I I remember the hotel staff had to talk to us quite a few times because, well, we were pretty drunk.
From some of our guests, we're gonna have to ask you.
Yeah, okay, we got. However, the reprimands by hotel security do little to dampen their enthusiasm.
At some point, I remember Tad saw this girl. She was just drop-dead gorgeous. Beautiful girl. She was there with her boyfriend. This girl did not want to have her picture taken, so they decided to leave. But the boyfriend was really, really pissed off about the whole thing. Well, as they were leaving, the Tad ended up clicking off a shot of this girl. The boyfriend flipped. He tried to grab the camera from Tad.
The brief scuffle is quickly forgotten, and the boys get back to having fun. Until hotel security finally puts an end to their hijinks. They are asked to leave the pool.
So on our way back to our room, while we're walking up the hall, I noticed that the door to our room is ajar.
Which one of you idiots left the door open?
I didn't leave the door.
Yeah, whatever, man.
And when we get into our room,
Oh my God.
there's toilet paper everywhere. I mean, the place was covered. It was totally teepeed.
Honestly, this is all your fault. This is what happens when you lose the key, jackass.
And someone has taken shaving cream and written losers on the bathroom mirror.
After determining that nothing was missing from the room, they assume that the trashed room is just a practical joke.
We just got back to partying. The next day, we packed up and headed back to school.
Hey, man, the pictures are ready.
I remember I was studying for an exam. I kind of put the weekend out of my mind. But then Skip showed up with the photos from the vacation.
What's up, Skip?
Skip gets the pictures back from the photo lab.
Look at this one. Remember her? Hi.
Hilarious.
Now, in the middle of the stack of photos, there were some photos that were a little bit different. Now, the really hot girl at the pool that Tad had been bothering had a tattoo of a dragon on her foot. So it was then that we figured out it was the angry couple. Man, I don't know how they did it. They must have stolen our room key.
So is this a brush with the truth, or is it a phony photo fable? We'll let you know at the end of the show. But first, check out this mini-myth. Mini-myth number 28. Cleaning up crime. Adrian and Tiffany McKinnon return home to Alabama after a week's vacation to find robbers have ransacked their place. Adrian sends Tiffany to her sister's house while he notes what's missing. As he makes his way around, the thief walks in through the back door with Adrian's favorite hat on his head. Quick as a flash, Adrian holds the unsuspecting thief at gunpoint and tells him to clean up the mess he's made. Then he calls the police. When cops arrive, the thief complains to them about being forced to tidy up. So is this burgling blunder true, or is this story just criminal? Is it true or false? It's true. Laughing cops told the thief that he was lucky he wasn't shot dead. On Urban Legends, we show you 3 astounding stories. Your task is to separate the true tales from the fake fables. So far, you've seen the story of the brothers Diaz, who thought they'd been shipwrecked on a remote island, only to find themselves less than a mile from downtown Boston. And the story of Rick Skeddington, the former frat boy whose burgled hotel room left a bad taste in his mouth. But are either of these stories the real McCoy? We'll reveal the truth at the end of the show. Now it's time for our final story. This one's called Monster in the Woods. The tranquil countryside around Sipovo, Bosnia belies the horror of a bloody civil war fought here during the 1990s. This man witnessed the fallout from the conflict when he was stationed there as a UN peacekeeper. Meet Major Nigel Taylor.
I was commissioned to be an officer in the British military, and I found myself posted as the commandant of the Sipovo camp in Bosnia in 2001.
But he saw one strange event that would stick in his mind forever. In August 2001, Major Taylor is getting to know the people and countryside of his new jurisdiction.
When I arrived there, the first person I really met was Ilya. He was the president of the walking club and like a mountain guide there. One of the stories that he told me at the time was that they'd actually seen something moving up in the mountains when they were walking. A dark figure of some kind moving through the underbush.
Locals tell of a strange creature roaming the forest, preying on unsuspecting villagers.
People saying there's ghostly things up there and everything else.
What did he say?
He said that there's a fairy tale in the village, that there's a monster in the woods that scares the children so they don't go wandering around.
At first, Major Taylor agrees that it's just a cautionary tale designed to keep curious kids from straying into the many minefields scattered throughout the area.
But certainly there was a considerable number of people has actually seen something. All the stories come out about Sasquatches and hairy beasts up in the mountains, and maybe it was a grizzly bear and the Yetis were coming out.
So the Major decides to find out what's behind these scare stories and gets Ilya to take him to the spot where he had seen the mysterious figure.
Eventually we got to where they'd actually seen something moving. There was nothing there that we could see, so we decided to carry on walking. About a half kilometre further on, we found a shack in the woods. It was run down, but there was no life there. There was no smoke coming out or anything else, so it just looked like an abandoned shack. And all of a sudden,
there's somebody coming.
There was movement behind the shack.
But this was no Sasquatch.
To say he was a person, he had unkempt hair. His beard had grown. He was dirty.
Can you ask him what he's doing here?
Šta radite ovde?
After much cajoling, the mountain man tells his heartbreaking story. Shortly after the war broke out, he and his brother were taken prisoner by the Croatian militia as part of their campaign of ethnic cleansing. They were held captive for 3 long years, in which time he was forced to watch as they executed his brother. Mountain Man then tells him how he escaped from the prison and fled into the mountains to hide from the war.
The war's been over for 6 years.
It turns out that Mountain Man had only been able to escape the prison because the war had ended. When the Croat militia disbanded, they simply left the gates wide open. But Mountain Man bolted before anyone could tell him the war was over.
And he went straight back up into the mountains.
Severely traumatized by his terrible experiences, the Mountain Man hides from all humans, friend or foe.
And during his time in hiding, there was people up in the mountains shooting game and wildlife to feed the families that were there. Because the gunshots were going off, he still thought the war was going on.
So is the story of the reclusive wretch the real deal? Or is it just a hermit hoax? You don't have to wait too much longer to find out. All will be revealed after this final mini-myth. Mini-myth number 1249, Fool's Gold Digger. In 2007, an anonymous New York City woman posts an ad on an internet marketplace. She wants advice on how to find a rich husband.
Hey there.
Describing herself as sophisticated and beautiful, she feels that this alone should earn her a wealthy man. A response arrives from a wealthy suitor, the potential sugar daddy, claims to fit her criteria, but he has one condition. He only offers to lease rather than buy her, as she was a depreciating asset, while his monetary worth would continue to increase. So did a woman really advertise for advice in finding a rich husband? Is it true or false? It's true, but when the media picked up her posting, she refused to reveal her true identity. Now it's time to reveal the truth about her 3 stories. First up, it's a story of the Diaz brothers who thought they'd been shipwrecked in the middle of the ocean, only to wake up in Boston Harbor. But is it true or false?
My name is Germán Diaz, and this is a true story. It's not a dream.
Despite being lost at sea for over 30 hours, the brothers were embarrassingly rescued just a stone's throw from downtown Boston. They still go fishing, but they never forget to bring their VHF radio anymore. Next, it's a tale of Rick Skeddington and his buddies, whose vacation hijinks angered other hotel guests so much that they performed unspeakable acts with their toothbrushes. But did this story really happen?
This is not a true story. Are you kidding? I'm not Rick Skeddington. I'm a paid actor.
The urban legend of travelers making a horrible discovery upon viewing vacation photos dates back to at least 1990. The victims of the prank vary from a honeymooning couple to a white trash motorcycle gang. Which leaves the story of Major Nigel Taylor, the guy who discovered that a monster in the woods was actually a man hiding from the Bosnian Civil War 6 years after it ended. But is it true or false?
I'm Nigel Taylor, and this is a true story.
Like the Japanese soldiers found in jungles years after the Second World War ended, the mountain man became briefly famous. He has so far refused to come back down from the mountain, though now he does have regular visitors from nearby villages. That's the end of our episode called Big Mistakes. Did you choose the trusty truths, or did you decide on the devilish deceptions? However you did, you'll get another chance to separate fact from fiction in the next installment of Urban Legends.